What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video here at Samples Family Reptiles. I'm Corey, as all of you may know. Welcome back to another update. Been a little bit just like the last one. Been kind of super busy here. But I got my female Java water monitor out today. Actually, we get them out just about every day. But I decided to throw a camera up. I got a few things going on in my bathroom that they love to climb on. So if you can't tell, I've got my Java up here. She's climbed the wall and is just relatively content to just stay there. So she makes quite a bit of room, or quite a bit of commotion going around my bathroom altogether. But it's good enrichment. I'm in the process of kind of trying to turn my master bathroom into like a miniature rainforest, minus all the moisture in the air at all times. But the heat and a large body of water holds humidity pretty decently inside my bathroom, so they get the opportunity to free roam in here quite a bit. That being said, man, the Asian water monitor I'm finding is really inquisitive, really smart, really quick to catch on to what you've got going on and to learn your habits and your voice and your mannerisms. She has been here for this coming Tuesday will make 2 weeks, so in 2 days she'll have been here 2 weeks, and she's, what I'd like to say is pretty much already through her acclimation period, which is usually 30 to 45 days for any reptile species. And a lot of people were going to say, man, even if they do want to interact, leave them alone. And that's all fine and dandy if you decide to do it that way. However, I've noticed when taming monitors that if they start to become inquisitive and I push them away, or I do not let them come out and see what I've got going on and interact with me, I'm actually causing myself to take more time in building that trust with them. Whereas if I just let them come out and interact with me, and obviously in a safe environment, and I make sure that my environment is 100% safe, minus loud noises and children, for when we're trying to build trust, and especially any dogs or cats, if you have any of those. I have no cats, but I do have dogs, so we have to put them up. But for the most part, as long as I let them come out and interact with me and I end my interaction on a positive note, I never break the trust, and the interactions continue more and more and for longer and longer. Now, I'm not saying that as soon as one shows interest, I go ahead and pull it out and spend hours upon hours with it. That would actually stress the animal out even more than me going inside and chasing it around. You have to give time to acclimate, and you have to give time for them to get used to your surroundings. So even if I've had a monitor for, say, 4 days, let's say 4 days a monitor is here and it's already showing interest in wanting to come out, I'm going to let it come out. I'm not going to let it get down on the floor and interact, but for at least the first week or two, I'm going to allow it to come out, crawl around me, do the hand-to-hand motions with it, one hand in front of the other, not restricting it, but not necessarily letting it go anywhere. And then I put it back in the enclosure when it's still wanting to come out or still wanting to be on me. So what, like with my Asian here, when I put her back in, I don't close the enclosure and end the interaction until she is still trying to come out. I'm leaving it on a positive note. She is still wanting to come out. So the next time I go to open the door, she may or may not, but usually may, still want to come out. This allows me the opportunity to build threads, tiny pieces of interaction time that build a giant, tightly wind rope of trust. Kevin from Nerd Water Monitor said this perfectly, and I actually took his advice on this, and is one of my techniques that I use. So shout out to you, bro. Love watching all your nerd videos. I use this technique quite often, and that's building threads. Every little positive interaction with these guys, whether it's inside the enclosure or outside the enclosure, is a building step towards the animal and trust that you want in the end. So if I'm constantly going into the enclosure and I'm stressing out the animal, I'm building bad threads. If I'm constantly having positive interactions, I'm building positive threads. Positive threads is what you want. Negative interactions break the trust. Listen, You can put in 10 years of solid work with these guys, have trust with them for 10 years, and in 30 seconds, y'all, 30 seconds, break that trust and have a mean animal. As a young one, breaking the trust sucks because, well, you're trying to build that trust, and so breaking it just means longer time frames on you having to work with them to gain that trust. That being said, I don't work with gloves, and I build a lot of time into them as young ones, young hatchlings into juveniles, and then into young adults. That way, by the time they are adults, and if I don't have the time to mess with them every 5 minutes of every day, that trust is still there. I can walk away from my Nutrilis monitor for 2-3 weeks if I really needed to, not interact, come back, everything be fine, but that's due to the amount of time I've put into him up front while taming and building trust with him. This one is no different. I spend quite a bit of time with her, quite a bit of time with my Melinus monitors, quite a bit of time with our Esteban iguana. Any animal that is requiring trust to be built into it, I personally am spending a lot of time with, and I'm doing it in small doses. So with her, I may go up to her enclosure, let the window down, or let the door down, because I've got her on a ramp style drop door right now, and interact with her for a couple minutes. And I'll leave the interaction on a positive note where she's letting me love on her, letting me touch on her, letting me pick her up and handle her or interact with her, and then I close the door and I walk off. I may come back and do this 4 or 5 times a day, and the older they get, the more I increase the interaction and the longer the interaction time frames are. So again, I've only had her for 2 weeks. I'm actually going to step up here on the side of my tub and get her down and kind of show you her for a second, and then I'll put her back up there because she's up there hanging out, just kind of exploring, getting her enrichment. If I pull her down, she's going to consider that as a negative thing because I'm not letting her come to me. But if during that pull down, I'm not forceful, and I interact with her for a couple minutes or a couple seconds, and then I put her back where she is, she consider that as a positive interaction. Let me show you. Hey, Paxi Pax. Hey, Paxi Pax. Hey, baby doll. Hey, baby doll. Hi, baby doll. Yeah. Come here, Paxi Pax. Come here, Paxi Pax. Hey. Paxi Pax. Hey. Come here, baby. You can't go out from up there. You can't go out up there. Hey. What about right here? Yeah. There you go, Paxi Pax. So come here. Come here, let me show you off for a second. There we go. Hey, little one. Alright. So, this is Pax. Now, Pax is still relatively young. She's only 5 months. But, as you can see, she's super chill. She does really good with the interactions. Now, this is me going to handle her for, I'm going to say 30 seconds to a minute. We'll stay right here with the video with y'all. And then I'm actually going to put her back on the wall where she was and give her the opportunity to come down on her own. This shows trust. This shows that I'm not making her go where I want her to go. She is allowed to be where she wants to be. For me, now, and this may be wrong. Everybody has their own way of doing things, but for me, this is one of the main ways that I've been able to so graciously tame down monitors, big lizards in general, is I give them the respect they deserve. Think about it as a kid. If you pulled a kid out of somewhere and stuck them in a dark room or in a room that they don't know, with a lot of things they don't know, it's going to be very stressful. Then you take that kid out and you put it back where it was, maybe a little stressed still, but it's going to be a lot happier to be back where it was, and it's going to feel a lot more comfortable. I'm not saying just go rip your monitor out of their enclosure either. That will be a bad idea, especially if they're young and you're trying to build trust, like I am with this little one. Yeah. I'm very surprised and very impressed with this one's demeanor. This beautiful Java was produced by a gentleman named Matty Hartwell. Shout out to him as well for producing such a lovely monitor. Not just lovely, but super inquisitive, y'all. And if you think about these guys' temperaments on a regular basis, especially what you can read about during the wild, Matty and a couple other gentlemen that have really put in a lot of work into these breeders, and especially Kevin from Nerd,
have really done a number with their temperaments and allowing these guys to be, quite literally, some of the best pet lizards that you could ask for. Now, when I say best pet lizards, I do mean that in a monitor species category. You have tegus, and they can be a lot more docile. They're like the puppy dogs of the lizard world. But for those of us that are into the monitors, that are into the big lizards, especially the big lizards, these guys right here have it all. Temperament and smarts. They're very inquisitive, very lovely little animals. And, you know, I couldn't ask for a better showcase of what these guys are really like and what they can be. Again, this takes a lot of work though, and these are not cheap animals. Even if you happen to come across an insanely good deal where the animal itself is cheap, the cost to upkeep and house these guys is not cheap. So please keep that in mind before purchasing one of these beautiful creatures, to be prepared, because they are not. Excuse me about that. Somebody likes to jump off and take a run, so give me just a second. I'm gonna get her back and put her back on the wall like I told you I was going to. Hey, little girl. Hey. Hey, little one. There we go. Hey, Max. So, yeah, she's... Alright, so now we're gonna put her back on the wall. Let her go back up there. And now when I approach her here in a little bit, there will be no huffing, no puffing, no hissing. And again, this is just being respectful toward the animal. This is showcasing your emotional and vulnerable side to them. Meaning you understand what they're going through. You understand the stress that they could be going through, I guess really just the stress. I mean, if you're treating your animals right and you've got them in a good setup, your husbandry's on point, and believe me, that's a lot of people out there, a lot of monitor breeders and sellers are going to tell you that husbandry, and that is absolutely 100% correct. Husbandry plays a huge issue. However, please don't let myself nor anybody else tell you that our husbandry is dialed in 100% of the time, because it is not. Climate changes and changes in the enclosure itself as far as where substrates move to, more or less amount of water depending on the heat, because heat dissipates water, so that's what creates the humidity and moisture in the air. Things change within an enclosure. So, and I'm telling you right now that most of us monitor breeders and keepers are constantly changing things up anyway, trying new and better things to better ourselves, our animals, and the knowledge behind our animals. So that being said, this is a learning lifestyle. You know, for most of the species out there, there is quite a bit of information nowadays. Has been quite a bit of information presented since the mid-90s. However, it's still very basic info, so a lot of the information that I myself am getting is coming from not just research and hands-on, but getting to talk to people who have been doing this for decades, years to decades. And that's really played into my ability to tame down and talk about these guys just the same. So again, keep that in mind, that if you're going to have one of these guys, if you're going to purchase a reptile of any kind, especially a tegu or a monitor, though, to do your research. Not doing your research is the reason a lot of these guys end up for rehome or for adoption or at a rescue, because people buy them and don't understand what they're getting into, or they just do a little bit of research and realize that, they can afford to get the things they need, so they run out and purchase it. But then when the animal starts to get, or when the animal gets there, they realize it's a whole different ball game. Or they think it's all fine and dandy, and as it starts to get bigger and eat more, they realize they can't afford it, or they're scared of it. So a lot of these animals, I've noticed over the years, are actually going into rescues and end up with people like me, because, well, just to be quite frank with you, a lot of people out there nowadays will purchase one, like I said, and not understand and end up having to get rid of it. That puts a bad name on the monitor species as a pet in general, because people are always seeing other people get rid of them. So please, 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 if you're going to purchase one, please be aware of what you're getting into. the cost behind the animal itself, the cost behind upkeep, the cost behind keeping vet bills down in case you need a vet bill. Depending on where you live, treating for parasites is a huge ordeal, especially here in Oklahoma, where we don't have these guys out around a lot, and it's not the perfect climate for these guys. We're constantly have to pay attention for parasites and such like that. And then cost for enclosure. I see a lot of people that just go out and buy these guys and put them in aquariums, and then wonder why their monitors are so mean. And why they can't ever get them to tame down. Guys, you're coming in over the top of them. How are you going to get them to tame down? You yourself look like a giant predator, these little bitty lizards. Little bitty this way or this way, it doesn't matter. You're 5-6 foot tall. We're talking about a 6-inch to 2 foot long lizard, depending on the age frame that you get it. Even an adult monitor that's so low to the ground, doesn't matter the size it is, it's so low to the ground that me standing up and over it like this or reaching down into the enclosure, I look like a predator. And I'm almost positive you're never going to gain or build the trust that you are looking for. Open front, sliding door, or drop down front door, or raise up front door is always best. Front view and front handling is always, always, always a must with these guys. If not, you're never going to experience the real trust, love, and appreciation from these guys that you could if you have them in a proper enclosure. Not only that, these guys grow fast, so depending on what species you get will depend on whether or not you could even house something in something like that. Take her, for example. She could theoretically stay right now in a 55 to 60 gallon aquarium and be perfectly fine. The problem with that is, the major problem with that, is husbandry. In an open top aquarium, you cannot create and keep proper humidity. You're only going to be able to gain max about 50 to 55 with a screen top enclosure. You need something fully enclosed for the monitor and Tegu species, monitor specific. I'm specifically talking about monitors right now, although this does apply to Tegus as well. So fully enclosed, front opening enclosure is what you're going to need. And keep in mind that depending on the species, if you buy a mid-range to large size monitor, you're going to have to upgrade quick. So I noticed, and even I made this mistake first when I first started buying into monitors, is that I went out and bought the best of the best style enclosures, or I built the best of the best style enclosures for them to go through their acclimation and advancement periods. Boy, was I into some money. So be aware. Now you can go cheaper routes when it comes to being on the smaller end. I still wouldn't recommend going with a glass aquarium. For, again, a number of reasons. One, the humidity being kept inside there is absolutely horrible. Two, you got viewpoints all sides. Monitors and Tegus especially, they're very spookable, so you need 3/4 fully closed sides where you're not going to see one viewing point in the front. That's it. At least for young monitors. Once you get them to an older age, you may be able to do sides and front, and maybe even a back. But as a younger guy, you're never going to gain their trust or get them to be in what they call schizo, or which is all over the place, hiding, unless you only give them a viewpoint in the front where you're not constantly stressing them out. This gives them the ability to go off into a corner, even if you can see them and kind of feel like they're hiding because they can't be seen 360 degrees. So I'll tell you what I've noticed a lot of people do. Take a tote, especially for like the aquatic guys, take a tote, cut a hole in the side of it, frame in a door, drop down door, and cut a hole in the tub, the top, put some chicken wire over that for a couple lights and a heat emitter, throw some water in it, and hang a log in there. Super simple, and you're only using it for a short period of time, just enough to gain the trust. Once you start building trust and the trust is fully built, okay, this is the biggest part, not changing enclosures. Whatever enclosure you start with from the beginning, you want to gain the trust before you upgrade, which means you need to be taking the time, effort, and correct steps to build that trust. If you're constantly upgrading or you're constantly moving from one enclosure to another, you're constantly going to be stressing your animal out. Think about this. every time I go into one of my monitor's enclosures and I move just a rock, I could just take a rock and turn it sideways, put it back in, close the enclosure up. I have now created a new environment, a new ball game for that monitor, and I've made a stress level. So keep in mind that you can't always change. So starting basic, if you're going to, make sure you gain trust before you send off to another enclosure. I myself have used the Toad ID a couple times. I myself have gone and spent tons of money on enclosures to house them and upgrade as they go. But I always make sure that my starting enclosure I've made the trust connection with and got it established so that when I move them, they are still trusting in me, even if not in their new environment for the first little bit. Man, that's pretty much it. You see Pax back there, finally gonna move around a little bit. You know, I was actually quite surprised to find out just how arboreal these guys are as babies. And I quite enjoy it, actually. I quite enjoy the arboreal species. Just like my Melanus pair, I love them because they're semi-aquatic and semi-arboreal. I didn't realize that the Asian water monitor was the exact same way as a young adult, or a hatchling into a juvenile and a sub-adult. So it's been pretty cool. And at some point, relatively soon, when I move her from her start enclosure to her new one that I'll have kind of in between, I'm actually thinking I'm going to do a 2-foot wide by 30-inch deep by 6-foot tall enclosure, so with trees and such, so that she can get up there, because most of the babies are used to attacking food from up top, going downward due to the fact that they're so small. So I think she might actually like that. So I think eventually that's the way we're going to go. But anyway, I just wanted to jump on here and give you guys a quick update on some of the things going on around here. Right now we've got a busy household full of busy reptiles. And hopefully as this week goes by, I'm going to get an update out on each one of those. Be cool to show you an update on our San Esteban Island spiny tail. He's now coming out and about for us. He's took quite a bit of work too. My son's actually the first one to get him to walk out on him, so shout out to my son for that one. Cameron's done phenomenal with helping me with my Esteban Island spiny tail, actually my wife's San Esteban Island spiny tail, and then our monitors. As I've mentioned before in our previous videos, he absolutely loves working with my big Nutrilis, has enjoyed working with her just a little bit as well, and has started working with my Melanus pair. So thank y'all for tuning in today, and as soon as I can, I'll get another update video out. Again, as I stated, I'll try and get these out throughout the week. Yeah, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Y'all have a good evening, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you.